Good morning. You're still on to Good Morning Anambra. According to IMF, the drop in oil prices since mid-2014 has changed the fortunes of Nigeria, affecting the growth and financial stability of the nation. Hence, the need for a polity that will focus on sources of revenue. And so today we'll be discussing the topic, diversification of Nigeria's revenue base. And we have guests right here in the studio to help us talk about this topic, talking about Professor Steve Benter, Professor of Finance and former Dean Faculty of Management Sciences in UNIZIK. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We also have Professor Ken Obi, former Head Economics Department, Nnamdi Azikiwe University. You're also welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, good to have you. We're looking at the diversification of Nigeria's revenue base. Let's come to you, Professor of Economics. Now, looking at generally the age-long diversification mantra, if you look at it, it's one of the things that everyone is talking about: diversification, not putting our eggs in one basket. Now, this has been 4 years after Kemi Adeosun, of course, before she actually resigned, when she talked about that the nation has to diversify. How far have we fared?
Thank you so much. We've been trying and we'll continue to try. The issue is this: if we look a little bit back historically, you'll find that the role that government plays varies, depending on the type of economic system. Now, if you look back at the time of Adam Smith, he actually talked about having limited the government role. The role of government then should be supervisory, regulatory, and providing basic infrastructures. But then we have Keynes, who disagrees with that view. He said that not only that, government should intervene in the economy when the market fails. And by so doing, we have to provide those goods and services that the ordinary man cannot provide, but will be beneficial to the society at large. So from that point of view, you now see that as our needs increase, the need for diversification will continue. So It is an ongoing process. That is what I want to say. So that is why I said we've tried, we're trying, and we'll continue to try.
All right, coming to you, Professor Steve. Talking about diversification, I want to take us back a little bit. What would be the effect of a country that is dependent solely on a particular means, just a means of revenue generation? Talking about Nigeria, and we know that for some time we've really depended just on oil for our revenue. What are the possible effects on a nation like that?
Thank you. We know for a long time Nigeria has depended on oil as a monocultural economy, and 80 to 90% of our revenue is based on oil, and it is so risky for a country. If you think of the instability in the oil prices, the shocks and the fluctuations, you see that this country has suffered from this culture, depending solely on oil. And everybody is talking about diversification, spreading your operations, spreading your sources of income, so that we will not depend on one item. And that is the element of risk involved. And so we need to look at how this country
All right.
to diversify.
All right, let me come to you, Professor. When you look at what has been happening right now, we know Nigeria generally, everyone, the citizens know that it has been oil all along. And formerly, way back before this oil came to take, the center stage, we know about cocoa and the like. So what happened to this industry? They are not competing with the oil, and it looks like because everyone is depending on the oil, now the oil is actually having issues. Nigerians are suffering. What happens to all these other industries that could have helped us become stronger and better?
The answer is very straightforward. It's just a leadership problem and lacking focus. It's not just about this regime, but that has been our culture. We'll be using the word culture because that appears to be what we are doing all the time. Just recently, I was reviewing a book, and I started from 1960, that's structure of Nigerian economy. Do you believe it that virtually the same problem from 1960 continued to reoccur until this present time? One blueprint will come and tell you that they are now doing it differently, and they end up not doing enough. So I think what has happened is that we have not been planning as we should do, and planning and executing it in a way that will bring about development and prosperity. So we've just left the development part, and there is need for us to trace it.
Now let's look at this picture. This is cocoa.
Cocoa, yeah.
Yes.
So what happened to this industry? Yes, you talked about bad leadership and stuff, but it is also something I think we can bring back.
Exactly.
So how do we go about this?
Well, you see, government must provide the enabling environment. That is the major role of government, in addition to ensuring security, law and order, and all the rest. And ensuring an enabling environment is very important. If you want people to go into farming, you must encourage them, provide the necessary environment. For example, look at our roads. You need to, ensure that we have adequate infrastructure. These people, the farmers, let's say cocoa farmers now need loans, for example. They need to be encouraged.
Okay.
So if you do not provide the enabling environment, look at the way they're crushing this thing. Don't you think we need a better technology to do this?
Okay.
So these are some of the things that if we want production of cocoa, for instance, to be enhanced, to increase, then government must do something.
Hello, good morning. Sorry, your name again. Okay, please change your location and call us back.
Okay. Let me come to you, Professor Steve. What the professor himself of economics has actually said about the government generally, federal government and stuff, but does this solely have to rest on the federal government? How about state governments? What do they have to do? Because we know that when it comes, everybody wants to go to Abuja for federal allocation. What do the state government also have to start doing so they don't have to start depending also on oil or probably going to Abuja to get federal allocation and stuff?
Yeah, thank you. We know from economic history the stages of economic development. Everybody started from the traditional society, from the agrarian society.
All right, let's pause you there. Let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Good morning to you. Your name and location. Your line seems to be breaking. We can't hear you clearly. Hello, good morning. Okay, just keep the calls coming in. The numbers are there. You say something.
Yeah, so we move from the agrarian to the take-off production, then on to stages of mass production. So we seem to be jumping from one to the other. You have to walk before you run. So we have enormous agricultural potentials in this country, which was completely neglected. Okay. You look at the area of arable land available in this country. And what we are suggesting is that we have to move back. You have to draw back in order to leap forward. So let us go back to agriculture. This state is trying, but it's still not enough. You need to encourage the farmers. You need to train the new young agriculturists with new techniques of production. You have to make land available so that people can engage in massive agriculture. Corn is there, cassava is there, even yam, and lots of other cash crops. It's not only cocoa. We have abandoned the palm plantations. We have not even attempted to develop the...
That's it, the palm plantation?
Yes, develop the pineapple orchards. Go to Cote d'Ivoire today. They have ships of pineapple going abroad every morning. So it does not have to be oil alone.
Okay.
So develop agriculture. It will provide the necessary input for industrialization.
All right, thank you. That brings me to my next question. Let's bring the discussion back home, down to Anambra State. We know about the Anambra rice and the like. So what do you think? What are those sectors that Anambra State should seek to exploit to show up its revenue base?
Well, I think, let me continue from where he stopped.
Okay.
I think for now, our greatest potential is in agriculture.
Okay.
Our greatest potential is in agriculture, and even in developed economies. I think agriculture, the contribution of agriculture to the overall GDP is still reasonable and significant. And as you rightly mentioned, it provides resources for other sectors. So one, I should think that we need to go back to agriculture. In Anambra State, we are trying, but the potential there has not been fully tapped. Okay. And given that here we can, at least educationally, we are doing very well in Anambra State, and we have people with the resources. I think we can as well move into the industrial and manufacturing sector, which you can see in Anambra State. We still have some nursing and all the rest of them. So, but the basic thing should be agriculture for now. I think we can do quite well there.
All right, let's come to you, Professor Steve. You're talking about taxation as one of the ways we can actually use to generate revenue. I mean, increasing taxation. That there has been this debate. Government seeks to raise their revenue through taxes, but the experience has been that some of the people don't like paying taxes. People that even earn money, they don't like paying taxes. So how do we resolve this?
Well, tax is one of the major sources of revenue for government, and nobody will rule that out. Most economies don't have these enormous resources in terms of oil or minerals or even agriculture. So you depend on taxation as the primary source of revenue. The issue in this country is that people do not have confidence in government to utilize tax revenue appropriately to develop the infrastructure, the municipal services needed by the people, provide adequate security, and so on and so forth. So people are hesitant because they see people in government appropriating revenue from the federal government, appropriating the taxes from the people, and not using them effectively for development purposes. So in that situation, you will expect that people will even resist paying tax. But it is now for the government to educate the people and to convince them of the need for this revenue to solve the economic problem. And once people are convinced, they will normally pay, because you pay tax from your earnings. You don't have to go and borrow to pay tax. It's
all right.
Out of your
Thank you very much. Well, we're going for a short break now, and when we return, of course, Good Morning Anambra continues when we return. All right, good to have you back. We're still talking about diversification of Nigeria's revenue base. And let me come to you, Professor. What would you say about the emerging area of creative economy involving music, Nollywood, acting, and the likes, and entertainment industry in general? Do you think Nigeria, as a country, do you think we're getting it right? What should we be doing differently?
In fact, if we look at developing and developed client.
All right, before you continue, let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. All right.
If you look at developing and developed client, you find that the service sector is very, very active.
Okay.
So I think over here, people in that sector should be encouraged as much as.
But do you think Nigerians are creative enough?
They are doing their best given prevailing circumstances. I think if you look at their contribution to GDP, I think it's coming up. That shows that we are doing something, but still we can do a lot more. Okay. We are trying. I think it's one of the areas that we have seen some reasonable improvement.
Now, do you think that the government needs to do more, or the people? Who are we shifting this blame to? Who are we expected to do more? Because you're talking about challenges facing diversification of revenue base in Nigeria.
It is a task for both the government and the people.
Okay.
Both the government and the people. Everybody must be involved. It's not just the government. So individuals should do what is right at any point in time.
All right, it's one thing to talk about this diversification of Nigeria revenue base. We all know that everybody is always wanting to go to the oil. But ever since it looks as if the oil has been crashing, Nigerians are beginning to look into some other areas like the agriculture, and just like we mentioned in the entertainment industry, we know right now it's a big industry, in Nigeria. A lot of people are beginning to make good money, and beginning to upgrade their status. Now, let's quickly talk about it because time is not our friend. How do we make it bigger and better? And of course, get the government to be involved, to make it another way where we talk about this diversification of our revenue base.
Yes, I want to emphasize here that the only way to create wealth, to add value to the economy is through production. But this sector has been grossly neglected in not only Nigeria, but most of the developing countries. Okay. We must develop the productive sector. That is the industrial sector. Okay. I mean that we start from agriculture. We produce all the primary commodities, all the raw materials. We shift them to the productive sector for processing, adding value, producing the necessary manufactured products that we are importing into this country. In this way, we reduce our dependence on importation. We conserve our foreign reserves, our foreign exchange. We export some of these products we produce to increase our foreign earnings. This is how to create economic stability. And by creating the processing and manufacturing and productive areas, we create employment. It is those people who are employed, who are earning income, who will be able to pay tax. So government has to look into this area and plan, because planning is another neglected area in this country.
I think a longer process.
Thank you
also.
very much.
Yeah.
All right, from you, Professor Ken, because we really have no time here. What's your last words to the government, the people, in fact, Nigerians as a whole, towards this diversification of our nation's revenue base?
I should say that the economy is growing, and that means we require more resources, revenue to do that. And I encourage everybody to, for example, pay tax, because it is your obligation. And on the side of government, I would want them to provide the enabling environment. For example, as you rightly mentioned, if the people are not working, you cannot collect taxes from them. So, yeah, so, and there are several other sources. So we've been concentrating on this thing. But we need to look at other sources of revenue that the government have been neglecting. So there are several of them, and we have not actually paid enough attention to those areas, especially when you come to our income listing. In fact, we will let us mention something. We'll talk about this taxation. We must be very careful, because you find that because of the way these taxes are collected, it is even hurting the economy. Some of they do not observe all these canons of taxation. Right? So you find, because taxation, it is not only generating revenue, but it is used, in several other ways to influence the economy.
All right.
And so we must be very careful how we rely solely on taxation.
Thank you so much. Professor Ken will be former head economics department in Anambra University, and also Professor Stevie Benta, professor of finance, former dean faculty of management sciences. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right, good to have you around. Well, this is it, TGIF edition. That's exactly what we call it.
We are calling it off right here, but then we still have news on the hour and the sports then to offer you. But my name is Chidima Oranwa. Thank you so much for being part of today's edition of Good Morning Anambra.
And I'm Ebere Ugonna. Many thanks for joining us.